October 2025. A lot of the same, but actually a lot of different. Here's the thing. Inventory in the four markets we serve: St. Louis County, St. Charles County, St. Louis City, Jefferson County. All of those markets, inventory is down. Active inventory, new listings, active listings. St. Louis County down almost 15%. St. Charles County almost 10.5%. St. Louis City 22%. Jefferson County down 27.5%. So that's very consistent from the previous months. But here's the biggest difference. Unit sales, which have been trending down year over year, we actually saw a little bump up in sales. So for example, St. Louis County up 4%, St. Charles County up 1%, St. Louis City, though, down 18%. We continue to see the St. Louis City soften in terms of inventory, in terms of sales, and Jefferson County, again, up about 4%. Prices. Prices evened out a little bit year over year. They were still up, but not the growth that we've been seeing. So, for example, St. Louis County up 4.6%. St. Charles County up 1.3%. St. Louis City, although unit sales down, inventory down, prices, which is good news for the sellers, prices up 7%. Jefferson County, prices year over year were up 2.6%. So when you look across the board, active inventory down significantly, new listings are down, sales, tiny bump up except St. Louis County, and prices up, but nothing like we've seen that growth. So it's a really interesting dynamic, because you would think that this whole thing would represent that active listings should at least be up, or at least just down a little bit. It tells you that there are sellers that are just not putting their homes on the market. There are sellers that are not prepared to list in today's market, especially when they see what's happening with prices. Because at the beginning of the year, we saw these bump up in prices that were significant, double-digit increases. Whereas right now we're seeing these small increases, and there's sellers that are not prepared to participate in today's market. They saw what their neighbors sold for 6 months ago, 8 months ago, different market. And they're either electing to take their home off the market if it was on the market and didn't sell at their price, or just not put their home on the market. And how has interest rates impacted all of this? Not very much. Here's the thing. The Fed did lower interest rates by 0.25%. But remember, Fed rates are based on short-term borrowing. It impacts commercial, impacts car loans, and really credit card. Whereas the mortgage rates for residential are based on the 10-year Treasury note, which hasn't moved as much. As a matter of fact, when the Fed lowered rates, the 10-year Treasury bumped up a little bit. So we still see interest rates in the low sixes. I don't think this market's going to move until we see the low fives. And I'm not sure we're going to get to the fives anytime soon. So I think what we're seeing here is more of the new norm. And I do believe that if sellers bring out their homes, which has been common theme, you're probably sick of hearing me say, great homes, priced right, prepared for sale, market at the highest level, are selling. In many cases, are selling multiple offers over asking. So those homes that are overpriced, bad strategy in today's market. If you're going to err on one side, if here is market price, you can go high or low. I'm going low, and the market will bid it up or recognize the value. Overpriced homes need price adjustments, and price adjustments are not even working in many cases right now. The other thing is, we get into the market, and I wanted to be specific about a couple things. St. Charles County is an interesting one because of all the new construction. Significant new construction driving the market, but still active listings are down, which tells you even with the amount of inventory there is in the new construction, there are just sellers that are not putting their home on the market. Again, and we haven't seen the bump up in prices. So it's an interesting St. Charles County, its own little interesting thing. We already talked about the city, really interesting. And, Jefferson County, when you look at inventory, Again, it was down 27.5%, but when we compare all of the inventories to 2020, so over the last 5, 6 years, inventory is down in Jefferson County 41%. It's down in St. Louis City 23%. This is all from October of 20. It's down 8.7% in St. Charles. Why it's not down as much goes back to the new construction. So much new construction is boosting the inventory. And then in St. Louis County, the active inventory from 2020 to today is down 25%. One last statistic, though. It's not necessarily good news or bad news, all that I've provided you, but here's what's happened to prices. If you look at comparing prices October 20 to October 2025, St. Louis County up 32%, St. Charles County up 40%, St. Louis City up 23%, and Jefferson County comes in at up 38%. So we know that over from 2020 to 25, we continue to see increases. It can't continue to go up. So it's expected that we're seeing some of this leveling off. What I don't foresee is the dip. I'm just not sure that it's going to continue to go up. And we're seeing that already. Buyers, interesting time because you can buy homes at a discount that have been sitting. You can buy from motivated sellers. Not every seller's motivated, remember, because they're taking their homes off the market if they can't get their price. But the ones that are sitting on the market that have been on for a month or more, here's the thing. There are some opportunities, and opportunities are right with contingencies. Even today, we're seeing home sale contingencies. So a lot of information. I know we're going to line it out in graphic form. They'll make it a little bit easier. But overall, consistent, inconsistent. I don't think our December report's going to look much different. And I actually don't even think January is going to look much different. But if you have any questions about buying, selling, home valuation, just want to get some more information, I'm here to support you. Let me know.